Welcome to a slow, beginner-friendly lesson on what CSV is, made for absolute beginners. The data section opens. Today you meet CSV, one of the oldest and most common ways to move data between programs. CSV stands for comma-separated values. It is the format your spreadsheet uses when it exports, the format databases use when they dump rows, and the format data teams still exchange every single day. We will not write Python yet. First we understand what CSV is, why it exists, and how it differs from JSON. That sets up the next lesson, where we read and write CSV files in code. The simplest data format, CSV stands for comma-separated values. The name tells you almost everything. It is a plain text file. Each line in the file is one row of data. Inside that line, commas split the row into columns. That is the whole format. There is no special binary encoding, no formatting, no secrets. You can open a CSV file in any text editor and read it with your eyes. That simplicity is exactly why CSV has survived for decades. The name says it all. Before Python, data already lived in rows and columns, on paper, in ledgers, in spreadsheets. CSV keeps that habit alive in code. Rows are older than computers. Look at this raw CSV. 3 lines of plain text. The first line is the header, name, age, city. That header names the columns. The next 3 lines are data rows. Ada is 36 and lives in London, Grace is 37 and lives in New York, Linus is 28 and lives in Helsinki. Each value lines up with its column because the commas split them in the same order. Read it left to right, top to bottom, like a tiny spreadsheet rendered as text. Read it like a tiny spreadsheet. The fact that CSV is plain text matters more than it sounds. Any text editor, Notepad, VS Code, Vim, can open it. Any programming language, Python, Java, JavaScript, Go, can read it. The files are small, so they move easily over networks. And there is no proprietary format lock-in, no vendor-owned CSV. Decades from now, your CSV files will still be readable. That durability is why data engineers still reach for CSV every day. Simplicity is the feature. Spreadsheets taught the world to think in rows and columns. CSV keeps that exact shape, with no formatting weight at all. The grid habit. Let us name the parts of a CSV file. The first row is the header row, it lists the column names. Every row below the header is a data row. Each value separated by a comma is called a field. So in Ada, 36, London, you have 3 fields. The header has 3 fields too, which means every well-formed data row has the same number of fields as the header. That alignment is what makes the file structured rather than random text. Header, rows, fields. Here is another example, a small contact list. The header has 3 fields, id, name, email. That means 3 columns. Below the header we have 3 data rows, one for Ada, one for Grace, one for Linus. Each data row also has exactly 3 fields, separated by commas. Notice how the email values themselves never contain a comma. That matters, because the comma is what tells the reader where one column ends and the next begins. The header is the contract. Think of CSV as a grid, like a spreadsheet. Each row is one record, one person, one sale, one product. Each column is one property shared by every record, name, price, quantity. The header row labels those columns so that anyone reading the file knows what each position means. And every data row keeps the same column order, so the third field in row 2 represents the same thing as the third field in row 50. That consistency is the whole point of the format. Think in grids. A CSV file is plain text. No fonts, no colors, no hidden magic. Any editor, any language, any operating system can open it. Plain text wins. Count the fields in any row by splitting on the comma. Product, price, stock, 3 fields, matching the header. For the data row pen, 1.20, 300, splitting on the comma gives you 3 fields too, pen, 1.20, and 300. The header sets the contract. Every well-formed row honors that contract by having the same number of fields. When a row breaks that rule, you have a malformed CSV, a common source of bugs in real data pipelines. Count the commas. Why does CSV exist at all? Because an enormous amount of the data we care about is naturally tabular. A spreadsheet is a table. The result of a database query is a table. A monthly sales report is a table. An export from your accounting software is a table. CSV is the simplest possible file format for tables, no formatting, no formulas, just the raw values laid out in rows and columns. When 2 programs need to exchange a table, CSV is often the first format both sides support. Tables are everywhere. Where will you actually meet CSV in the wild? Spreadsheets export CSV directly. Open any productivity tool and look for export as CSV. Databases dump their tables as CSV for backups and sharing. Analytics tools export reports as CSV so other tools can consume them. Many data feeds, prices, inventories, contact lists, arrive as CSV attachments or downloads. If you work with data, CSV will cross your path constantly. You will meet CSV often. CSV keeps data flat and tabular. JSON lets data nest. 2 shapes, 2 jobs. Knowing both makes you fluent. 2 shapes, 2 jobs. You already met JSON earlier in this phase. How does CSV compare? CSV is flat and tabular. Every row has the same columns, end to end. JSON is hierarchical. Values can be nested objects and arrays, so each record can have a different shape. CSV is perfect for clean tables like sales records. JSON is perfect for richer, nested data like a configuration tree. Neither is better. They serve different needs, and you will often convert between them. Flat versus nested. Here is that same Ada, Grace, Linus data written as JSON. The whole thing is wrapped in square brackets, a list. Each person is a dictionary with keys name, age, and city. Notice how the keys repeat for every record. Compared to CSV, JSON is more verbose. Every value carries its key in line. But JSON also lets you nest. A person could have an address key whose value is itself a dictionary with street and zip. CSV cannot do that cleanly. 2 shapes, 2 trade-offs. Same data, different shape. How do you choose? Reach for CSV when your data is flat and uniform. Every record has the same columns, no nesting. CSV is also great when you want a small file a human can open and eyeball. Reach for JSON when your records have rich nested structure, or when 2 programs talk to each other through an API. JSON is the dominant shape there. Knowing both means you can pick the tool that fits the job instead of forcing one shape onto every problem. Pick the shape that fits. CSV is simple, until a value itself contains a comma. Then quoting rules step in to keep the columns aligned. Watch the commas. Here is the classic CSV gotcha. The note for Ada is hello, world, a value that itself contains a comma. Without protection, the reader would see that comma and assume it is a column separator, splitting one field into 2. The fix is quoting. Wrap the value in double quotes and the reader knows, everything inside the quotes is one field, even if it contains commas. The same trick lets a value contain new lines. Python's CSV library handles this quoting for you automatically, one reason we use a library instead of splitting on commas by hand. Quotes protect the field. A few gotchas trip up every beginner. First, commas inside values, quote those values so the reader treats them as one field. Second, rows with inconsistent column counts, which break the contract set by the header. Third, file encoding, always save CSV as UTF-8 so special characters survive across systems. Fourth, the trailing new line at the end of the file, which some readers treat as an extra empty row. The Python CSV library handles most of these edges for you, which is another reason to reach for it. Edges trip beginners. CSV is the most famous, but the same idea works with other separators. TSV uses a tab character instead of a comma. Some European versions of Excel use a semicolon, because their locale uses commas as the decimal separator. Logs often use a pipe character. The principle is identical, 1 row per line, 1 separator between fields. When you meet these variants in the wild, recognize them as the same family, tabular text with a different delimiter, and know that Python's CSV library can read all of them with one optional argument. One family, many separators. Quick self-check. Can you say in one sentence what CSV stands for and why it is plain text? Can you name the header row and explain why every data row should have the same number of fields? Can you explain the difference between CSV and JSON in terms of flat versus nested? If any of those feels shaky, rewind the matching part. You do not need to write Python yet, that is the next lesson. For now, make sure the shape of CSV is clear in your head. Say each out loud. Here is CSV in one breath. CSV is plain text. Each line is one row. Commas split each row into fields. The first row is usually a header that names the columns. CSV is best for flat, tabular data, spreadsheets, database dumps, reports. When a value contains a comma, you wrap it in double quotes so the reader keeps it as one field. That is the whole format. Simple, durable, everywhere. Plain text, rows, commas. Next lesson we move from understanding to doing. You will import Python's built-in CSV library. You will open a CSV file, read its rows, and turn each row into a dictionary, connecting straight back to the dictionaries you learned in Phase 0.5. Then you will write rows back out to a new CSV file. By the end of the next lesson, you will be able to read, process, and write CSV files in real Python code. Code comes next. If you want a small practice right now, open any CSV file in a plain text editor, VS Code, Notepad, anything. Count the columns by counting the commas in the header. Count the data rows by counting the lines below the header. Look for any quoted values and ask yourself why the author quoted them. Training your eye to read raw CSV is the foundation. Once you can see the structure, the Python code in the next lesson will feel natural. Train your eye first. Thanks for learning what CSV is. Next we read and write CSV files in Python. The data section opens.